Hello everyone and welcome to my video. Today we're gonna be talking about how to become a better healer. This is a very exciting moment for me because for the first time I'm gonna be sharing my knowledge with you guys, and I hope and I'm pretty sure at the end it will help you improve your own gameplay. As you might have noticed, this is part 1 of a 2-video series, and for today we're gonna be making together a very efficient, fully featured raiding UI that not only works well and will make you become a better player, but also looks awesome. As you have seen, I have no add-ons installed. I just got LVUI, unzipped it and put it on my add-on folder. Now I advise you to do the same, but before, make a copy of your add-ons folder and keep it somewhere safe. On top of that, you need to delete your WTF folder to make sure you're ready to go and start following my steps. First of all, I'm gonna be taking care of the action bars, the minimap, everything else, and at last we're gonna be setting up the raid frames that are very important. After I'm done with all the LVUI parts, we're gonna be adding more add-ons to it, so let's get started. Starting with LVUI, as you can see, I have opened the options here. You can do that by typing /LVUI or by clicking this button. First of all, I'm gonna be taking this bottom panel because it's annoying and it doesn't look good at all, so I just open my options and untick bottom panel. The next important step is to get rid of this right chat panel because it's annoying and it doesn't serve any real purpose. So I'm gonna go over to chat, scroll down, and on the panel backdrop I'm gonna be ticking left only. So as you can see, this panel disappeared, but this line right here showing us the goal, the time, and FPS and MS is here, so I'm gonna be moving it later because it's important and I like it. For now, you can set your font. I'm using 2002 bold. You can check whatever you want, but remember that the font size can be changed by clicking on the actual option. So you right click on general and you can check font size as you like. For my screen resolution, I think that the default one is good, so I'm gonna keep it that way. You can also change the tab font size, as you can see right here, these changes. I use it at 15, it's pretty nice, I guess. And you can also put outlines. The rest of the options are your choice. I'm using same font for the outline. So that's it for now. I'm gonna be moving this little thing that I told you later. We click toggle anchors and we just move this thing right over here above and see if it looks nicely. Yep, it looks very nicely. It's aligned because it's perfect. It's at the edge. So that's it for now. Next up, we're gonna be checking our action bars and setting them in place. So I just use 2 action bars and then page them, but you can change whatever you want. The important thing is that you go to bar 3, you're probably gonna be using this bar, and change the buttons to 12 and buttons per row to 12 as well. So as you can see, our bar now unfolded. We're gonna be toggling anchors and putting our action bars in place beautifully at the center. Now these might move together, but because I have changed them, they don't move, so here we go. I'm gonna be moving whatever is annoying right on top here because it's not gonna be used for now. The bodyguard frame is useless. The boss button, just put it somewhere outside. The target of target frame, well, just put all these things outside because for now they don't matter. And just look. Now I don't use any of the other bars, so I disable them all. You can enable them, that's up to you. And my UI looks like that now because I want it clean and I want it slim. Now we're gonna be placing our micro bars, so we're gonna be enabling it. And as you can see, it appears horizontally. That is because I'm having 1 button per row, and the reason to do this is because I'm actually gonna be moving my chat panels a little to the right, place my micro bar all the way to the left, and this is gonna save me so much space. It's gonna look so much better. Now I'm gonna be aligning these 2 chat panels right on top of each other, so yeah, they look almost perfect, and that's it, that's perfect. So I'm gonna be moving my reputation bar here and my class bar right here, so they don't matter much, and let's see how it looks. It looks pretty perfect. It's very space efficient, and every button is right there for you to click. Saves so much space, and it looks very special. So this is something I figured out now, and I hope you like this idea. When it comes to buffs and debuffs, I leave everything the same because they are Blizz-like. I don't feel like moving them because I don't need to. We're using the raid frames, and every debuff is gonna be visible there. So I just change the font size and the outline and the font I use. That's up to your personal preference. If you wanna move them, you can move them. I suggest you don't, so let's move to the most important things of the UI. Next up, we're gonna be moving our player, target and target of target frames. As you have seen, I have moved them already somehow, and what I have done to help me place them at the right spot is change the grid size to 40, or you can do whatever grid size you might like, and then I can move them and count the squares to check if the distance from the middle is the same. So I tend to use 5 squares, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares, and place them right on top of the lines, so the white perimeter is on top of the black lines. Same here with the target frame. If you get that thing, it is because it overlaps with your target of target frame. So you can move this thing a little, place it on the right spot, right here, I think. Yeah, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it looks perfect. They are exactly on top of the line. I have to move this one actually. Now I am being very point on here, guys, but that's because I like my UI to be perfect. And now you have to move the target of target frame. It's not gonna allow you to place it exactly next to you. So what you have to do is use these little arrows, click all the time until you get it right next to where you want. I tend to put it there because that looks perfect for me. I move these bars that I don't want, the pet bar here. These are my arena, my objective frame. I use my battle frame right here above the chat, or you can put it even right here. Yeah, right here is a better place in my opinion. The objective frame, I put it below the minimap right here, and the arena and the boss frames, I usually overlap them, but just because the objective frame is right here, I tend to put it a little more down, so this looks perfect. As a healer, we don't usually use boss frames to target things, except in Legion this priest is gonna be using them. But for now it looks amazing, and let's check it out. So as you can see, the frames are perfectly in place, and now we're gonna tweak them around. We're gonna tweak the cast bars and the buffs that are appearing here. Next up, we go to the unit frames option, and I pretty much keep everything the same here, except I tick smooth bars because that's something I like, and get scroll down all the way to colors. I untick everything you see here. It's gonna be default like mine. If you wanna play around with them, you can do it and see what you like. You might find something you like more. And all the way down, I just change nothing. It's all default. Now I'm gonna be moved to the player frame. You can change whatever you want of the health and all these options, but I keep them like that. I don't really care much about it. But what I do care about is the buffs. I go scroll down all these options and I disable the buffs, and I disable as well the debuffs. As you can see, I have them already disabled, and I repeat the same for the target frame and all the other frames I might want to do it, for example my focus frame. So as you can see, I disable both the buffs and the debuffs here. Now on the name options, you can change the orientation if you want. It's up to you, and you can play around with these options. For example, you can make a bigger mana bar, but I found the default ones perfect. So that's it for now, and then we're gonna be taking care of the rest of the UI and moving on to the raid frames finally, which is the last step of the Elf UI process. Now finally, let's make sure you have focus frame at a place you like. You can enable it from the raid frame panel, and the vehicle seat frame is nothing special important, but it might get used sometime, so you have to put it on a place that you're gonna be comfortable with. Make sure everything is exactly like mine or to your liking, and then we're gonna be moving our party frames, our red frames and our red 40 frames. I'm gonna tell you the difference later, and create a final nice LVI ready for raiding. So far the most job has been done. Now it's gonna be a tricky part because these red frames can get out of sync sometimes depending on raid sizes. They're a bit of annoying, but it's okay. LVI is a pretty nice UI and it is especially good for healer. Many good healers use it. So let's get started with the frames as long as you're ready with all the rest. Next up, we're gonna be checking the raid frames. So we're gonna be going to the unit frames tab and click raid frames. Now LVI has an amazing feature that lets you preview your raid frames as you tweak them around. So as you can see, I click display frames and they show up. I get an idea about their size, their buffs and their debuffs orientation, their raid icons and all the options. So now it's how we tweak them around. Now for me, the raid frames are gonna be my mythic group raid frames, so I'm actually gonna be changing their number of groups to 4. The groups per column, just leave it to 1, that makes perfect sense. And change their size, I like them a little bit taller, something like that. And then I'm gonna be adding a little white as well. They look pretty big, but this looks perfect to me. Now I unlock them, I get them right in place, they automatically get centered on their own. And from what I can see, they look perfect for me. I really like them. Maybe I can make them a little smaller, but in my opinion they look awesome well. So these are gonna be my mythic raids. Now we're gonna be checking the other options. On to the left, for example, the health. An amazing feature for healers is frequent updates. It says it puts on more stress on the memory and the CPU, but I haven't really seen anything special, so to me this is a must. Now we're gonna be checking the other options as well, which is the power. For example, I don't like power on my bars, so I disable it. And we're gonna be also changing their growth direction, make sure it's right then down, so they grow like this, and then down direction. You can check the vertical spacing, horizontal spacing, whatever you want. I like them to be fully compact to 0, not -1. I like them to be at 0, they look perfect. So let's move on to the other options as well. The right idea, for now they look perfect, and we're gonna be tweaking them around, checking the buffs, the debuffs and the name directions and all this extra stuff. Now this is a very important step because we're gonna be managing our buffs, for example our HOTS, our shields, and basically this is important to keep track, for example, of renew, my power word shield and everything else. So you just go to raid frames, you go to buff indicator and you specify the size. I set it to 15, I set it to maximum. The font size is up to you as well, I just keep it to a minimum, I don't really want it. And then you click on configure auras, and what you do here is select spell, you check the spell you wanna manage, and there are different ones. So for example, I have already set up my power word shield to the top. This is the position of the frame it's gonna be. You can set, for example, to the left, as you can see it moves right here, or you can see it to the top left, right here. I like it being to the top middle, so this is where it's gonna be placed. And then you check textured icon. If you check none, it's nothing gonna show up. If you check colored icon, you're gonna see this ugly color, but we want textured icon, so that looks perfect. For example, this is a debuff, as you can see. This is probably my weakened soul. We're gonna check it later. Next up, I'm gonna be taking, for example, prayer of mending for you. So right now it is put on bottom right. I don't want it there, I just want it on top left, so it's gonna be moved there. Check the textured icon, and that's perfect. As you can see, my prayer of mending is nicely and looks perfect and textured. Now the next part is a little bit tricky because it involves some proper positioning. I go to the debuff page and basically I put 5 debuffs per row. These are the red ones you see. I use the size override to be able to get the maximum size so they stick into the frame, and then depending on my anchor point and use center, I have to use a He offset and X offset so I can place them exactly on the place where they belong. For example, if I had this on 60, as you can see, they get outside of the range. So for me, it is perfect 45. You're gonna play around with these settings, attach them to the frame, and that's basically it. You can change any other settings, do not put any filters, change them to your liking. Same thing you're gonna do with buffs, but you're gonna be putting only 2 on the bottom left here, as you can see, bottom left. Again, you have to do some size override depending on your size, use some Y offset, and these are basically these 2 little things on the right here. They're not gonna be used many times, but they're here to cover all the situations. So with these frames, guys, you're ready to get into any raiding, depending on your class, of course. If you get ready and prepare the specific buffs, for example, as a priest I have these 3 ones I have to keep track of. You can keep track of many other things as well, and these are pretty much ready to be used, and with them we're gonna be copying onto party frames and raid 40 frames to be ready fast and nicely. So let's see how it plays out next. Now some final steps to make your frames look exactly like mine are to go to the GPS arrow and disable it, disable the information panel, disable the raid icon, disable the raid leader and master looter icons, and disable the roll button as well. So what you have is, disable the portrait of course, what you have is frames exactly like mine that would cover any situation and are nice looking and better for healing than any other frame you can get, in my opinion, because they're very fast, and UI frames are very fast, and that's something I like about them. Next up, what you're gonna do is go to raid 40 frames, go to this option here and check copy from raid frames, and basically you're gonna copy all that work we did before. Now you can set the number of groups to 5, 6, whatever you want, and also you can change their size, so you can make them look exactly and place them exactly on top of your other raid frames. I was lucky enough to get about the same size. You can tweak that if you want, but yeah, I was lucky enough to get it exactly right. So right now I have 2 working frames for every group combination I might happen to have in a raid. So if you're doing both mythic and heroic, as many people do, or you're going to LFR and you want to have a bigger group and you don't want to change them, you can swap between around them. If one of them shows up wrong, just enable or disable the one you want. So for now I'm gonna be keeping this enabled, and the same thing is gonna happen with our party frames. We're gonna be copying from raid frames. Let's display them and see how they look like. They look like this, but of course we have to reduce the number of groups to 1, and now we have only 1 group. We can make them bigger, we can make whatever we want, and these are the settings, so they probably work fine for you as well. Tweak them around. I won't place them here for now because I don't want to waste time, but you can do it on your own. So now we're gonna be moving to the second part of the video where I'm gonna add more add-ons. We're done with LVUI. It is ready for every situation. There are some options we didn't talk about, but they're very minor ones and they don't matter. They're about taste and minor things, so you can tick them around. Don't be afraid to tweak anything. You can save your UI at any point and play with it. So I hope so far it wasn't that complicated. Let's move on adding more important add-ons. Next up, I'm gonna be changing my SCADA. I like to put it on the bottom right. So here I'm gonna unlock it. I'm gonna be putting it at the size I want. This is pretty big but looks perfect, so I have to just make it a little smaller. That's enough for healing, so I guess I can lock it in place. You just lock the window, and then all the different options I am changing is the font. I like bold as always, on the bar, on the title as well. As you can see, everything is changing. The background texture doesn't really matter. I prefer a simple one, the armory. Same with the bars. The bar height is up to you. You can choose whatever you want. I just like the small ones as it is. I'm used to it. So that's it. That's about it. The fonts are changed, and everything looks perfect with Skader. Now what I'm doing is also placing angry assignments on top here. I click this and lock it in place. So we're done with these two add-ons for now. Except if you want to change the way your scatter looks, you can change your color, but that's just looking stuff. I'm not gonna bother talking about it. You can do it from here if you want. Just check the window options. Next up, we're gonna be checking an add-on called Tell Me When. Basically, it's a buff, debuff, and cooldown tracker. I use it for all of these options. You can use weak aura 100% for all these jobs, but Tell Me When is easy to set up, so I'm gonna show you how to do it. You can choose, for example, here a cooldown, a spell cooldown, the type, and check the name. For example, I'm using Penance. As you can see, there is a huge list, internal database. Check the correct one. I usually tend to go with the setting, usable 100%, opacity, unusable 20%, show timer text, and that's about it. So right now what this is gonna do, when I use Penance, it shows a cooldown and it turns that way. So now I / Tell Me When, and I'm gonna set up the other spells I tend to use mostly and come back to you after it. Now I'm gonna be using a very nice add-on called Mask, which will basically turn my Tell Me When to a better looking version. So I just go to Mask, Add-ons, tick Tell Me When, and use the zoomed version. This is something I do just because I like the way it looks. So right now it should look like this. As you can see, my spells are perfectly oriented here. Archangel is here and Evangelism is here, so I can track of all of the important things. And right now there is enough space for my cast bar, so I'm gonna go to LVI and toggle the anchor. As you can see, I haven't touched my cast bar yet, and there's a reason because I haven't done it. So I'm gonna be placing it there, and I'm gonna be changing its size, of course. So we're gonna be going to the player frame. I'm gonna be checking the cast bar, so this is the width option. I might also have to toggle the anchors. Okay, that looks about right. So I'm gonna be keep casting here. I tend to like long cast bars, and we're gonna make it and give it a nice height as well. So that looks about perfect for me. It's right in the middle, so I'm also done with it. And now it's time to set up big wigs, and see you right after it. Now for big wigs, I tend to use some simple options. Just go to the bars and the emphasized bars. Remember to both click them to grow upwards. Increase the scale to 2 of the emphasized bars and the normal bars, whatever you want. And I tend to place them here, the emphasized bars here and the bars here. You can click create test bar to create some test parts and see how they would look like in an actual boss fight. As you can see, they're very beautiful. I can easily see them on top of my target. They do not interfere with anything else. I put my range meter here, the alternative power here, which is not anything special. So the messages are all here and everything is close. And this is the big wigs add-on. This is very important. You can also check specific boss types of things, but that's up to your lead builder mostly, some markers and stuff. So just use it in case you want to add more depth to your gameplay. I really check some options here because they are very helpful sometimes. So that's it for the big wigs, and now we're gonna move to the last add-ons. Finally, another useful add-on with many boss modes, but also a raid cooldown tracker for your whole raid, is the Exorcist raid tools. You can choose one of the templates. I use this one, and then tweak around the font and the general size, width, and everything you might wanna like. Hit lock, and on a raid environment right here, all the raid cooldowns of your healers are gonna be displayed. So this is the final import that I'm done, and our UI is pretty much done. It's ready and it's sleek, beautiful, very easy on the eye. It works amazingly well for raiding. It's not a PvP UI, by the way, and that will cover everything you might wanna encounter as a healer and create a very nice experience for you. I hope that you like this UI and that you can create it on your own. That's why I went through all this trouble to make it step by step, because you might not like something I do, and if I just copy the UI and send it and show you this is guys, you're not gonna like something and you're not gonna be able to change it, or it's gonna take you a lot of time and effort to find that simple thing that you might wanna change or add on your own. So this way I advise you to really sit down and learn how to tweak these options and create a UI like this or a similar UI, get the ideas that I used and become a better player. After all this effort and time guys, we're finally done. Our UI is ready. I really hope you like the video, and more importantly, I really hope you like the UI. Hope you use it in raids and get good results with it. It really took me a lot of effort and a lot of time to make this video, so if you liked it, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. This is the best way you can support me. I'm ready to use this UI on the next reset at a Mythic Archimond boss in order to show you how to play as a healer, how to expect damage and the general mentality of a healer in order to be a good player and provide the maximum to his team. So that was it for today. See you next time and hope you have some fun playing World of Warcraft.